Today we're talking to Katie Daniels from Mount Holly Springs, and we just worked on a project here at the Holly Marsh Preserve where we're doing a cleanup. And Katie's going to talk about her life in Mount Holly Springs and why she chose to live here.
Thank you, Pam. I moved here with my family in 1968. My dad was stationed at the Army War College. He was a student there, and there were 4 children, one on the way, and my parents looked at different housing in Carlisle. There was no base housing, and they were shown a small farm out in Gardners, Pennsylvania. The realtor, I guess, didn't figure that they'd be interested, but everybody fell in love. When we drove up the lane, that was home. My dad finished the law school, finished the Army War College schooling, and then was transferred to Washington to Marine headquarters. And the family stayed on. My brother, the youngest brother, was born, so then there were 5 of us, and we stayed through Dad's time in Washington. He commuted. There's one more kid that came along in 1970. All of us went to Carlisle High School, but Gardners was home. We did a lot of commuting. We spent a lot of time on Route 34, going through Mount Holly Springs and back again. So that's our route. We could probably do it blindfolded. And when I came back to the area in the 90s, I had a home out in Gardners. I subsequently, with my partner, found a home in Mount Holly Springs, what we call Upper Holly, which is just south of the borough proper, and found a beautiful home that was owned by the gentleman that taught me health and swimming when I was in junior high school, Carl Davis. He and his wife had lived in that home for 30 years, and interestingly, it had been built by good family friends of ours in 1971. So there was a real connection, and it's in a beautiful tucked up spot in the woods near one of the ore holes, like the Pine Grove Furnace. There's an ore hole behind us that filled up with water, and it's a great swimming hole. It's well known by people, young people that would sneak back and go swimming, usually at night. But it's a wonderful location and secluded. And I got involved with the borough thanks to Pam Still, her efforts to make improvements. It's kind of interesting not having grown up in this area. You're always kind of an outsider. Our farm is still called the Heisey Farm, even though my parents have lived there since 1968. But Mount Holly, is town for us since we grew up in Gardners, and I'm very interested in seeing it improve. And with all the traffic, of course, the roads are in really rough shape, and I think anything that we can do to improve the traffic flow and the town in general to make it a nicer place to visit has my vote and my efforts to the extent that I can give them.
So Katie, what are some of the assets that you find living in Mount Holly? Are there particular places that you like to go, or do you also like, being a little out of the main part of the borough? Do you like living in that environment?
Yeah, I think since I grew up out in Gardners on a farm, I was telling Ron, I really had to learn when I moved away and went to school to have curtains on my windows, because I never had to deal with that. So I think I would have difficulty living right downtown with houses right next to me. So living on the outskirts is really nice. It feels rural, and we have the mountains around, or I guess they're hills, but all the beautiful nature around us and wildlife. And we're in the woods, so that's kind of a neat asset. But my mom volunteered, still does, at the Amelia Given Library in Mount Holly, and that is such a huge asset. My dad was on the board for a long time and helped with some of the capital fundraising that they did. So that's probably the biggest thing for me was the library. That's always the main focal point. Now, when I was young, there was a grocery store in town, and that's where we did most of our grocery shopping. Anything that Mom didn't get at the commissary, like people go to Costco today, Mom went to the commissary, but we did all our regular grocery shopping at Arnold's, right there in the square. So.
Now, Katie, you do a lot of volunteer work, and you're like today we're doing the Marsh cleanup, but you're also involved with the King's Gap. Do you want to talk about that, what that means to you?
Sure. A good friend of mine was the president of Friends of King's Gap and an avid hiker, and he asked me to become involved. They were looking for other board members, so I have been doing that for a number of years now. But that's kind of what's cool about this area. You're able to get to places like DC and Philadelphia and well, for us, those big town of Carlisle or Harrisburg, that's all very close, but you just are a hop skip from beautiful nature. King's Gap is such a gem, and I like the fact that not a lot of people are there. It seems at any one time. It's often that you can hike and never see anybody. So that's quite pleasant, I think. So that's why I volunteer to try to help raise money to promote their programs, and make sure that they have what they need to keep the mansion going and keep the trails maintained.
So if you had your dream come true, what would you like to see Mount Holly provide you with as amenities to make your life more complete in this area?
Right off the bat, I would say the Deer Lodge. Mr. Rickard has a lot of big plans, I know, and his feet in a lot of different projects, but we so miss having a restaurant close by that draws people. And I mean, the Deer Lodge was the go-to place. If you wanted a good steak and a big salad, and it was basic, but crab cake or a steak, you went to the Deer Lodge. People came from all over. That was our family go-to place for as long as I can remember, and I really miss having that. As you get older, you don't necessarily want to travel as far for something good, and I'd really like to see that come back to Mount Holly Springs. So I'm hoping that will be close. It would be my great desire to have something right on the main drag that was a go-to, like Cafe 101 is in Boiling Springs. I think that is just an exceptional place and draws people. It's so neat. You can see it. Groups get together there, and I know Crumbs is tucked away, kind of. I think that's something that needs to be maybe built up a little bit more, but I'd love to see something that would draw people, that they just see people sitting on the corner and stop in, have a good cup of coffee, and chat.
Now, the Revitalization Committee is involved with possibly pursuing a park along Mountain Creek, and would you see that as an opportunity to, would you personally use that and see that as an opportunity, as some destination place to ride your bike or walk to and, hang out by the water?
I think one of the things that I lost when I moved to my current home in Mount Holly was the opportunity to step out my door and go for a run. I can go up into the woods, of course. That's a little bit different running, but in Gardner's I could go right out on the road and not fear for my life. I can't do that here, so having something like Veterans Park would be great. It would be a place where you could park your car and take your bike and head off without having to travel Route 34 and have the trucks.
Now, Katie, I know that you personally are a highly technical person. That seems to be something that your job has led you into. And my question would be, how do you see technology aiding Mount Holly, maybe in interpretive signage, or a walking tour that you could access information? Do you see that as a real possibility for a town of Mount Holly?
I have fairly recently been to Lidditz, and I know that Mount Holly is different than Lidditz, but that is kind of my aspiration for Mount Holly, and I think they've done a lot of wonderful things. I worked for TE Connectivity for a little while, consulting with them, and I'm more of a writer or technical writer than a technical person, but there are so many things with Wi-Fi now. There are, I know, new technologies to allow a town to be a hotspot. Since we live in a gap, I have a cell phone, but I can't use it at my home because I can't get reception. So I think that would be a really cool step in the right direction. And we talked as a group with the Revitalization Committee about having an app as a walking tour, so that people could pull up Mount Holly Springs historical or points of interest on their phone and do their own walking tour. I know that that's a very straightforward thing to do. I would be so happy to write content for that, and to help work with the people that know how to build those kind of apps. And I think that would be a big draw. One of our big things is to bring younger people to Mount Holly. And there are plenty of us old farts, but we need some younger people to help carry things on, and they have different wants and needs and approaches to life.
So, just one more thing. I know that your father was very respected in this area in general, and he unfortunately is not with us anymore, but in his behalf, because he was so connected to this area, what would you think that he would like to the torch carried on to do?
Yeah, he was very active with wonderful things like the Amelia Given Library and the YMCA in Carlisle. And as I told somebody just recently, when we were having a discussion, maybe a heated discussion about the controversy around a roundabout, which he was very much interested in, I told them that one of the things that he always insisted on was negotiation and cooperation. You didn't have to agree with somebody, but you had to work hard to try to find some kind of common ground. He was an attorney. After he retired from the Marine Corps, he went to Dickinson Law School. And he would never take a divorce that was contentious. He only took amicable divorces, ones where people were willing to sit down together and talk. And I think that's probably what he'd like to see happen with the borough, is for people on both sides of this issue to sit down and talk, knowing that we all want to see Mount Holly get better and stronger, and not crumble and be frowned upon. So that's I guess that would be the torch that I'd want to carry on his behalf.
Well, Katie, you certainly have been a great volunteer, and you have been working on the Mount Holly Springs website, and you're a great communicator, and I just personally want to thank you for all the hard work that you've given the borough and the Revitalization Committee. Thanks for the interview, Katie.
Thanks for getting me involved, Pam.